Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Speaker, Prof. Idat, distinguished viewers, fellow UMK colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to welcome you to all to this prestigious workshop entitled Winnable ICT International Grant Application, specially held by Artificial Intelligence and Big Data IB UMK, together with the Office of the Deputy of Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation, TNCPI. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Hasya Prema binti Adli. I am from IB. I will be responsible for hosting this presentation today, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of the organizers. Thank you for taking time out and being here today. In this live sharing, we shall have an outstanding sharing from our prominent presenter, whom I believe shall enrich our skills and knowledge regarding the theme of this workshop. We, as academics, all know that finding funding for our research is extremely important and extremely time-consuming. According to Esrc on research, in a typical week, 29% of researchers prepare proposal for funding. However, the successful rate of this funding application is about only 1 to 5, and rejection is the fate of the most applications. Building grant writing skills is a great way to have secure funding, but how to master the application process and make our grants stand out from the rest. So, and thus special for today's workshop, we are looking forward to gain some tips, knowledge and guidance to master international research grant writing, to learn the best approaches to make it appealing to funders, and finally stand a chance at securing grant funding. For those who just joining us, welcome to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. Her name is Prof. Vida Ismail. Okay, she is a professor and founder of the Auto ID Research Laboratory in the School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering Campus in USM, Penang. She is a well-known authority on information, computer and communication technology and engineering sciences. And by the age of 27, she obtained her PhD in 2004 in electronics and communication engineering, specializing in active integrated antenna with image rejection from University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. After graduated PhD, she started her career as a lecturer in USM until today. She was the first female and youngest professor in electrical and electronics engineering at USM. Her main areas of research are wireless system design, radio frequency identification, active integrated antenna and radio frequency, and microwave system engineering. To date, she is a principal investigator for 27 research grants with the value of more than $1 million. She has 4 international research projects as a principal investigator with total amount almost 500,000 ringgit Malaysia. She produced 4 granted and 4 filed patents, received 10 international awards, 4 commercialized main research projects, and more than 170 publications, including the international journal papers, conference, seminars, and other publications. She has more than 36 consultations and collaboration with various agencies and institutions, and she is the main supervisor of 4 active PhD students and graduated of a total 70 PhD and 16 master students. Today, she will share her experience in applying international grants exposing some tips and tricks and guidance to master in international research writing. Before I pass straight into Profita, I want to let you all know that we have a three Q&A sessions in total, which are for every 30 minutes we will open for Q&A. That will be at 11 and 11:30 a.m. and final question and final Q&A session at 11:50 a.m. before we end our session at 11 p.m. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand over to Professor Vidat. Professor Vidat, are you ready?
Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Okay, please
wabarakatuh.
welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much to the Dr. Hashia as a chairperson today, and also to all the organizers from UMK. It is an opportunity, and I feel very honored to be here today to share. I may not be the best person to talk on this issue, these topics, but I'll try my best to share actually the experience. So I'll try my best to fit in the theme today, and hopefully we can share a lot more after this. So let
InsyaAllah.
me share the screen for the slide in order for us to start with. Okay, I hope you all can see that. Okay, so basically, first of all, let me introduce myself and my team in USM. I am originally from Kedah but stay in Penang. Our lab is known as Auto ID Laboratory, which is known also as IDL, under the School of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. So actually, our focus of research is to boost the direction of identification technology as part of the Internet of Things. So it's been there. We started this since 2006, and the laboratory was formalized in 2008. So basically, this as mentioned by Dr. Hashia as the chairperson today, this is some summary of what we have achieved. This is not a one-man show. It is actually a team commitment and contribution. Especially, I would express the gratitude to all the students involved, because we successfully deliver what the requirement of the grants because of the commitment and also the knowledge and also the contribution from the students. So basically, since our topic today is on international grant, Alhamdulillah, so far we based on the rate, success rate for the international grant, we managed to get about 90% lah out of the applications that's being submitted for the international grant. I would rather say that this is a more way of getting satisfaction by getting an international grant, and it is not an easy journey. It is a challenge journey also, but I will try to share my best to you some of the challenges and also maybe offer some solutions and some methods that can be applied to assist all of you to get better international grant. So I'll move quickly. If you have any questions later, you can straight away ask so that Dr. Hashia can. So the first part of my slide will be this one. What's the purpose of us in doing anything is that we try our best to be the best human, and the best human is the one that is the most beneficial to others. This is why I emphasize this at the start of our slides, because what is a driver to us to move? If you look at a pen drive, you have a driver to drive the pen drive. If you look at the mobile phones, you have the processor to do, to drive the engines, to drive the system. But we as a human, what is the driver inside our self, body and mind, and physically, what is the driver that brings us to move forward? This is one of the major driver for us, which is to do our best to benefit as maximum as possible to others, either to human, to the environment, to machines and others. So now it goes to these questions. With the current scenario of the grant application in Malaysia, the limitations of funding and all that, I'm sure everybody will agree that grant application journey is not a straight line. It is a journey that you need to master, and it is not heavenly. There are so many obstacles, but how do you want to change those obstacles becoming an opportunity and win till you get to the top? So I hope by going through this workshop, we can bring this journey to become a shorter. For example, you have your destination to be on top, for example, to reach your destination as a top researcher, for example. But we can have the same starting point. You can have a car moving with an engine like a Ferrari, or you can have a small car which is like a kanch. Kanch is what I mean, kancil lah, a car kancil. But towards the end, who will get it first or reach the destination? There could be several scenarios, such that at the first scenario, of course, with a good Ferrari car, with a high engine, with an excellent engine, you can reach very fast to your destination. But if you go by a small car like a kancil, you may be arriving later than the Ferrari. But second scenario is that you may have a journey that is having a Ferrari, but you arrive quite late from the one is using a smaller car like a kancil. So what caused this problem? It could be that the journey you are not using Waze to achieve your journey, meaning the system. It could be a system, it could be a tool, it could be a method. How do you want to achieve to your final destination? Or it could be because the kancil use the Waze and it doesn't get lost, but the Ferrari get lost along the way. So this is some of the scenario that we might ponder upon the journey to get a grant. So actually, most of the research before has stated that it is actually these 2 points to determine the success, especially in whatever we do, and especially in, for example, in the topic today, to get a grant internationally. Number one is the mentality. We have to have the right mentality, which is contribute to 80% as part of the driver that I was saying just now. So 80% will come from mentality, which is actually focusing on the power of choice and the power of making decision. Whether we want to stay at what we are now, or we want to change something, switch to another choice that will bring our capability to a higher level in order to do something better. For example, I choose to work, I choose to apply grant because I choose to, or not because I have to. So how many of us are applying grant because I have to? This is another big issue. For me, it is very important. This is your driver to move forward. So it is a choice, whether you want to stay to choose to become positive, or you want to stay to become negative and at the same level. So this is one of the things that really important. That's why I emphasized at the start of my slide, is that to have a good mentality. And throughout of that, only 20% of research finding shows that skills is the one that really brings the success. So I will combine in the slide some things that related to 80% of the mentality and the 20% of the skills. So it raised back to the question now. Why do we need to apply grant? As an academician, as a researcher, so why do we need to apply grant? Is it because our faculty, our university or school are asking us to do so? Is a part of our aku janji? Is a part of our promise as a researcher, as a lecturer? Is it something compulsory? If we don't deliver a grant, we don't get promotion? It's a university KPI? Promotion for the sake of promotion? And it doesn't matter, even though our dean, our TNC, our vice chancellor are pushing us to get a grant, we still don't care. Whatever, so what? So, or there is a reason. There is a reason, the driver that you want to go forward. That is because the responsibility and also the nation and the country needs. That's why no matter what, I have to apply grant. I have to deliver the grant and I have to successfully making impacts. And in order for us to do that, it has to be an enjoyable journey. Or because we want to make changes in people's life. How big we can change people by doing research. One of it is through a grant to support us to do research. So the purpose of making grants, I would say there are two goals that we can look in terms of long term and short term. One is that in terms of the next 5 to 20 years, of course, it is to give service and impact to the country and the youngsters especially. And to generate more graduates, more employers, more employees. So we are completing the ecosystem to the country to create more knowledge and impact. And in terms of the short term, yes, we can have a satisfaction. We managed to deliver a good output that can benefit so many people, our students, our society, our community. Or we can start and complete a good research and finally generate maybe knowledge and impact within at least 2-3 years through our outcomes of the research. So what's the end of that is that we are feeling blissful, or we are actually creating more distractions and getting more stress because of just this option. It's just a grant. For some people, you have to do a lot more. As a researcher, academician, it's not about grants only, it's about publication and other things. So are you getting more stress, or are you getting self-satisfaction, or getting blissful life? That's one of the driver. I emphasize this again, this is the driver for us to move forward. So where are we now? In our heart and mind, whether we are doing grants for the sake of something we have to choose, we have to decide, we have being compulsory on us, or is it because we really want to make a choice to decide that we want to contribute? So strategic planning, I'm going to the next level, which is where are we now? From there, we are looking at how we can plan later to get a very good grant. So first of all, we have to understand the current scenario. In the academic and research world right now, we are having so many limitations. So how can you change the limitation becomes strength and opportunity, and lowering down the threat and also minimizing the weaknesses. So if you look, some of the university or some of the lecturers, they have actually some advantages. For example, they are very near to the industry, near to the community, easy to do community project, for example. And we have a team that have multidisciplinary area, transdisciplinary area that we can work together on, and maybe some university position. For example, RE University, Apex University, or university that is really sustainable. So these are what we need to look into in order for us to move forward. Another one is the weaknesses. What kind of lacking in terms of management right now? For example, many of the lecturers, especially the young lecturers, intend to move to work more on management of the university rather than strengthening the management or the skills towards excellence in research, which is very concerning among the young researcher or young lecturer. And maybe because of the current scenario of academic and research world that provide us low in motivation. Another one is the threat. Threat is ancaman. Right now, I think this is the most popular one, which is the competition from other university. When the funding is getting smaller, so the competition is getting higher. So when the competition is getting higher, more people are trying to apply something very small. So what would be the threat? How can you change the threat of the competition with so many grant applicants, but you are getting a winnable one? That's where we are going to look later. And another threat is that the grant opening does not sustain. It is sekejap ada, sekejap tak ada. Sometimes there is an opening of grant, sometimes they close. And if they close, they open, don't know when is the result is going to come out. We keep on applying, but after 1 year, suddenly it said, sorry, your grant are not approved. So these are the things that is considered as a threat. So opportunity, there are still a lot more opportunity. For example, you can have many grants supported by many other university and also institutions. We still have a lot more from MOHI. An opportunity to get students from industry. There are some university that is very close to the industry or community. So actually this is an opportunity to do a good research. So it falls down to the importance of knowledge and skills working together. What I mean here is that you can have a very good knowledge in your respective research area, but it is not balanced with the skills to win a grant, for example. Later, I will show to you some examples of what are the skills to balance out the knowledge that we have in order for us to move forward to have a very good grant application. Okay, so now we move on to some of the things before this. Before I go into this, maybe I can share with you an experience. When this happens when at the like it is related also to the issue I said earlier, which is the mentality issue. Because especially to the young junior lecturer, sometimes there is an ethereal feeling that we are still young. How should we move on? There are so many senior expert lecturers that are really good in research. I give you one scenario that happens to me quite a long, that motivates me to happen to me a long time ago when we started our research journey. When I want to apply a grant, which is quite a million ringgit Malaysia at that time. My superior were saying to me, with that he said, don't bother with this grant. This is a big grant. This is meant for professor to apply. It's not meant for a junior lecturer. At that time, I was just confirmed as a senior lecturer. So I was quite energetic to apply grant. So this person was saying to me, don't apply this one. This is meant for professor, only millions of dollars of grants. So I was a bit shocked with this kind of mentality happening to me at that time. Maybe I'm not sure whether it's happened in this current scenario, but it did happen to me. So I took the challenge. How do you want to change the scenario, the situation to become an opportunity? So I didn't step back. I go back when he said like that to me. I go back and really want to change the mentality. Is that I have to prove. I have to prove to myself, to my team, to my research that we can overcome this problem. This a kind of double standard, I would say, mentality. So I started with finding a good team. Finding a good team, we making plans together to success the research grant. So even though the superior was saying to me, don't try, this is for professor only, I did try. And Alhamdulillah, we work very, I have a very good commitment from my colleagues. We have a good circle of friends and we work together. All of them are mostly senior lecturer, 5 senior lecturers. We work together. And Alhamdulillah, when we went to defend a million of grants, ringgit Malaysia grants, they didn't even bother to call us, whether you are professor, you are doctor or what. They just call us names to come for the interview to get the grants. So Alhamdulillah, we managed to get about 2 million ringgit Malaysia grant, which is mostly contributed by senior lecturer. So it is not about who you are, what is your post. It is about the content and the courage that you need, the confidence level that you bring to defend the research grant. So that's one of the scenario that happened to our time last few backs here. I hope it doesn't happen to the junior lecturer. Don't feel bad. Don't feel that you need to have somebody so powerful like a professor to bring to be the first leader to get a grant. No, it's not necessary. So another one is that let's look back at the slide. Is that to create your network? Started with competitions, awards, social media, and etc. Another thing I think most important right now is to launch the lecturer or the researcher marketing campaign mentality. This is quite, I think, I'm not sure whether you can understand. I repeat, it is to launch research campaign marketing mentality, meaning that a researcher right now has to have the marketing ability to strategize for you to be in academic and research work. Due to the challenge of the scenario, whether you have to do offline or online marketing, we have to do that so that people can know what we are doing. And then along the process, of course, we have to build the track record. And of course, continuous supervision. This is related to the system that I will introduce later. How do you want to maintain your input and output becomes in one system of cycle that is rotating all the time? Okay. So the process or the systems will require the input and output. When you do apply a grant, for example, a grant is a type of an input. So how do you process with a grant as an input to get as maximum as the output? For me, I believe it is the process. is the most important. The system to get one input to have as many as possible output. So in a way itself, it means that we as a lecturer is a little research manager on our own. It is the management. We ourselves as a little RMC ourselves, you see. You have your research and creativity management office, isn't it, at the university? So we ourselves have to have our own a little RMC on our side also, in order for us to be able to generate as maximum output with a limited input. So now we are going to look at the certain techniques that we need to apply in order for us to really step forward and do the apply the techniques as a winnable ICT grant. Later, I will show some example of the techniques or the writing of a good grants. First, we have to make decision right now whether we want to really apply a grant or we wait for a few months. That we have to make a choice. The cycle, please do not wait until the cycle or the opening of grant, then we make decision whether we want to apply or not. It has to start from now, even before. For example, most of the grant are opening end of this year, for example, December. Most of the international grant, for example, they are opening from October, November, and December. It is a quartile, I would say quartile term. Then it will start to be evaluated. Most probably, most of the international grant evaluation will happen from January to March. And normally the announcement will be in April. So if you really know the cycle, you can even have your grant ready by now. So no matter what, the grants is, don't wait until it's going to open, then we start to apply grant, because there are a lot of issues and criteria that you need to fulfill when you apply an international grant. Now it comes to this, high commitments. Of course, my advice to the junior lecturer or the young researcher is that you can, if you are involved in management of the faculty or schools, I would suggest you to have a break. Take a few days of break. For example, take 1 week. 1 week, put everything aside, be prioritized, put everything aside and focus these 2-3 days just to make a grant. So it requires high commitments to strategize how you can have a win grant application. So if my advice is for you to take a prioritize and move forward and put a lot of commitments to finish that. And then focus. Okay. Right now in the area of COVID-19, we are very busy with teaching, right? We have to do online teaching, we have to do publication, we have to supervise students and all those things. So the focus, sometimes our focus may skew too much on academic. I'm not saying academic is important. It is important. But how do you manage to make your focus and priority becomes visible, becomes implemented? So that's require mentality, good mentality, and also skills. And number 4, of course, actions. I've seen many lecturers are having problems in delivering a good grant, because one of the biggest issue is last minute issue. When we need to submit a grant, we do it quite late. So the quality of the grant might not be up to the level. So if you work fast actions, fast results. Massive actions, massive results. So again, the switching method right now that we need to switch to trigger ourselves. For example, you want to make your room lighter, brighter. So you have to have a switch, right? So if you want to prosper, what is our switch then? This is our switch to change, which is the change of mindset, the change of emotion, and the change of physiology, the actions that we take, and identify the potential and improve the relations. Why is it there is a term here, change of emotion? Change, what that got to do with emotion and grant? What does emotion has got to do with applying grant? Applying grant is what? We are dealing with people, isn't it? We are dealing with a network. We are dealing with our community. We are dealing with people. We are dealing with our co-researcher. We are dealing with our student. So if you don't have a good EQ, how do you want to manage and project what would be the best grant that you can serve for the grantor? If you don't have a good emotion, how can you deliver based on your empathy, the impact to the society, the impact to the community? So that's another thing. It's not about IQ, it's about EQ, and also another term which is SQ. How do you provide the balance between them? Most of academics, they have a high IQ but low EQ and SQ. So it is not balanced in order for you to have some intuition, some projection, what should you do to make something sustainable. So that's more towards that.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we continue with the first Q&A session?
Yes, of course.
Okay. As we don't have any questions from viewers, as nobody seems to be ready, so I will use this opportunity to ask the question. You mentioned earlier about the young researcher need to launch kind of research campaign marketing ability, strategy in marketing. Could you please elaborate more on that point?
Sorry, Natasha, can you repeat the question again?
Okay. You mentioned earlier about for young researcher to start, they should launch their own research campaign, marketing ability, strategy in marketing. Could you please elaborate more on that point?
Okay, launching marketing campaign mentality. Maybe I can write that as
Yes.
launching.
Launching.
Dr. Hashia maybe can write into the comments.
Okay.
Launching marketing campaign mentality.
Campaign
Okay,
mentality.
it is actually how to make people know about you. Okay,
Okay.
it is actually to make people see you. Actually, to make how can we make people see you, especially in what you do for research. Okay, there are several methods.
Okay.
Whether you can have zero marketing strategy. No matter what, as a lecturer, we have to start with this one. For example, you can have zero cost marketing strategy, whether you are going through Facebook, you are going through your student as a marketeer, your student also can be your marketeer. And then you can have offline. Offline means that you go join exhibition, you get to know many professors, you join the conferences. That's what we are already did. You join exhibition, win something, some award, so people start to know you. So some for me lah, I started with exhibition actually.
Oh,
That
exhibition.
that promotes my the research work actually. Because at that time people were very, especially the young lecturer, they said, why bother to go for exhibition? We are wasting time.
Yes, it's such a wasting time.
A lot of effort has to be done in an exhibition. But I look at the value of that, not because of the hectic or the hassle of, it is a way of you marketing yourself, get to know people, get to know different representatives from industry, different representative from the university. They invite you to become examiner, they invite you to become a collaborator in a grant. So this is what actually I have a slide actually to do the launching marketing campaign mentality. Maybe later lah UMK
Maybe a
can
workshop.
later on this issue itself lah.
How to market a researcher.
Yeah, how to market
Marketing.
your research is very important. Okay, and this is the thing that for me I think most of the lecturer feel quite slow. For what? We want to market ourselves, no need lah.
It's shy. It's quite
Yes,
shy.
shy. I don't know, shy is the right word or what? We are quite reluctant actually to market ourselves, our research.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Prof. We have another question from Dr. Akmal. He asked how to build a good team in applying international grants. There may some challenges, for example, to decide who should be a PI, members, and etc. And to divide part of proposals to be written among members. Okay, that's a
Okay.
question.
All right. Okay. First of all, good team. Good team is not easy to get, but you have to try and adjust. You have to try and adjust. If you have one, you can actually, that's why you need to have a look at track record of your team member. Track record, and then you have to communicate well with your team. I believe that no matter what, it's not about you become a PI. You should start yourself become a PI, not waiting for somebody to appoint the PI. You yourself the leader as a PI. Then you can tag along the others with you. You should have the leadership to bring others to come and follow you. That's what I think more important. You become the PI yourself, and then that has to create a capable or the skill to be a PI. Okay. So once you do that, find a good team member. I cannot promise that once you have a team, 100% your team will contribute. No. Normally, the nature of human, not 100% will contribute, but at least 80% will be contributing and do the. But it's okay for me. I believe once you decide your team, if one person is not contributing now, so next time don't invite that person again lah. That's that's the best thing you can do. Once you do bad things to your team, nobody will invite you again.
Yes.
So we as a circle of friends, we must make sure everybody has to do their own responsibility. If not, you did that, you will never get another opportunity with other friends. And how to divide the part of the proposal to be written. Okay. Throughout my experience, I didn't do that. I only call my team, this is the direction what you want to do. Okay. If you don't give commitment, that's why I say communication is very important. Please contribute, give a time, give a duration, and then let them come up. If they can deliver, this is at the time where you decide. If they don't deliver, then tell them honestly, I cannot, I have to remove you, I have to bring other people that can contribute. Be honest. And then some grant, and in fact some grant, I will explain later, we don't start from zero. I already have the proposal. Member ni hanya join untuk macam lebih kurang kita kata as a team. Yang later we explain to them what to do. We are the one that give them the work, not them giving us the work, right? We actually provide the proposal, send to them. Okay, this is the proposal. Are you agree? Do you agree to do this? So it fasten the time lah. Normally I would prepare the proposal first with my team back, and then I distribute to the co-researcher, get their feedback. This is faster rather than you wait for somebody to come up with a proposal and then combine later. That one is, I think,
it will take time.
Okay, it will take time. Okay.
Okay, I think that's our question for for the first session. Maybe Prof with
All right.
can continue
Okay.
slide.
All right. Uh, if you are you allowing the participant to ask question or they have to write, Dr. Hashia?
They can ask through Facebook, and I can read it directly from our comments.
Okay.
Okay, later on I will read another questions. Maybe due at 11:30 a.m. Okay, Prof.
Okay. So now we are going to the second phase, which is the injection or the technique injection of what you need to do in order for you to understand what kind of good grants you can offer. For example, you have to see the problems that always happens is that we don't have the freedom of time, we don't have the freedom of money, we don't have the freedom of making choices, we don't even have freedom for space and family, and in fact we don't have freedom to plan. This is related to the real research work. How do you want to manage your research and especially your grant so that you are having a lot more freedom? This depends on what I'm going to show to you next is the method, the correct method to apply a good grant. Number one is the mentor. Who, if I ask the participant that join now to write your name, the name of your mentor in applying grant, who would that be? Can you name your mentor? You can write in the comments. Huh? Okay, why is it this one? Very important. This is actually the sifu, your master that can guide you. But let me tell you the ugly truth lah. Not all professors are good mentors. That's the reality. Not all mentors are professors. What are the criteria to find a good mentor, good sifu, so that you can really work very fast, so that you can apply grant? This program, this workshop today is a part of mentoring program. That's why I would like to congratulate UMK. You are doing this program. Actually, it's a part of mentoring system. So there are three main criteria for you to choose a right mentor in applying the grant. The first one is that the mentor must be proven success. So if you are looking a mentor that is really good in applying grant, then the mentor must show the track record that the mentor has proven success excuse me, in applying grant. So the criteria number one is that the mentor must have proven success. Number two, to choose a right mentor is that it has the ability to guide you. Like I said just now, not all professors are having the ability to become a guide to you. So sometimes even a professor are even worse in becoming a mentor. So please be careful. So the ability to guide is a skill. So the second criteria is that. The third criteria to find a good mentor in assisting you is that the mentor has a follower or several followers, several anak didik lah, I would say, several followers that already proven success. For example, my student is becoming my mentee, and it has proven that my student, when I become their mentor, my student managed to secure even greater grant from the mentor itself. So find someone that can prove that the follower below him or her already proven success in securing a grant. So that's are the three criteria for that. The next one is ilmu, E-L-M-U. What is that? It is actually emotion plus ilmu, which is emotion plus the knowledge. Is the IQ plus the EQ. At least that one. Another part is the SQ, which will come later. So why do we have to look into this? Most of academics, they have ilmu, ILMU, but they are lacking in ELMU. That's why you need a team, maybe to balance up if you don't have the E side. Because like I said, you have to combine the emotion to energize yourself, to present your work, to present your proposal, to defend your work. It requires the balance of emotion. If let's say the reviewer of your grant, the grantor, is debating with you about your proposal, if you don't have a good emotion, you might be lacking in answering and in terms of confidence level to defend your proposal, for example. So that's why I say this is also a very important element. The third one, of course, definitely it is the system and the strategy. Later, when we go through the example of a good grant, I will explain to you what kind of system and strategy that you can have along the way. And the next one will be is the ability to plan. We can have a lot of plans, but would that be materialized is another issue. Okay, plan. Because sometimes we are too busy with doing other things, so we don't have even time to make plans. And the last one, of course, actions. Fast action, again, I emphasize fast action, fast results. So in order for, there are three components I would like to add in the action part, which is number one, you have to be very fast. You have to be very extraordinary, and you have to be consistent in your action. So, are we doing the hard way or the smart way in getting a grant? Like I said, I give you a scenario just now. You want to ride a Ferrari to reach your destination, or you want to ride a kancil lah, to reach your destination. Huh? So, the hard way or the smart way? So the purpose is that, why do we need to be very smart? Is that to reduce the duration, work duration. When is it the deadline? And then to help us understand our working style, to be more effective and efficient. I have a colleague, in just about I think he didn't sleep much. A colleague of mine, he spent up to until night 9 hours just to write proposal. He made 10 proposal. You imagine, he spent too much time at night hours producing 10 grants, but out of that 10 grants, all are not accepted. Why is that? Do you really need to work very hard, but towards the end you are getting more disappointment? So this is why we need to work very smart. Some of the smart highlights or the skills that you need to identify is that, number one, to identify the style and the methods that you can work on for your research. And use and apply information from the seniors and the resources, meaning that your mentors is very important. Writing essay, write report effectively is not easy. You have to keep on practicing in order to do that. Think clearly and critically, be extraordinary. Assignment and task analysis, read for understanding, not just for writing a proposal. And one of the most important thing is that whatever you write, you must be responsible in saying the claims. In saying and highlighting your contribution and novelty in doing a proposal. Taking notes very well, mind mapping, you have to brainstorm first. Sometimes we straight away decide want to apply, for example, this grant, but we didn't even take a time to break the ideas into small part and build the skills and techniques of strong mind. This is related to the ilmu just now, ELMU. You have to have a strong mind. Your emotion must be very energetic, and confidence and empathy has to be there. Time management, set the goals and directions. Okay, what caused us not to be able to get a good grant? Because one of it is, of course, the best technique is not being applied. What are the best techniques? I've chosen here the simplest one that I can offer to you, easy to understand, is the PAT approach. PAT approach is what? Plan, act, and test. PAT approach. That's the simplest one. You have to plan to get a grant. You have to act upon it, be consistent, be fast, but you need to evaluate and test your grant proposal. So the problem is that we are not selecting and choosing what to do specifically. Just do whatever across our mind at that time. And then do not evaluate our level of understanding. No testing are being done on the proposal. So we are very lucky, kebanyakan most of the research management office at the university has this kind of evaluation, meaning that they have the internal evaluation. Normally when we want to apply a grant, we have the internal evaluation for our MOHI grant, for example. But let me tell you the truth, for international grant, most of the international grant, nobody will bother to check your proposal. You yourself have to get help to check your proposal. And then do not making plans to grant success. So it is again a matter of making good choices. Again, one of the important thing is the management skills. When I want to share one scenario that happened to me last time, is that when my first mentor was I will remember his word until I die, I think. He said to me, my first mentor, he said to me, with that, you are now, he is the first person to evaluate my LPP actually. And he said to me, with that, since you are a new lecturer, I would like to advise you that try to prioritize, strengthen your research. Please, at the early start year of your career, please, he said, please do not involve so much in the management of the university or the faculty. Try to prioritize, to strengthen your research. He said he has the problem. Last time he came back as a junior, he has to work very hard. He has to work struggling because he involved a lot in the management of the faculty. So he said he has a limitation to very focus, prioritize in the management of the research. He said, once you get your research correct, you can manage other things very well. The problem is that you manage other things, your academic, your post as administrator, but you forgot about your research management. That should be number one, he said. You should prioritize that you can grab first your research management. Other things will follow. No matter what, you still have to do your academic, you have to still do your administration, but put priority and focus to settle first on your research management. How do you manage? How do you want to create the system work for your research first? Then the other things will come along the way. It will be parallel. So that's his advice to me as a mentor. Now I am becoming a mentor also. So I would like to share this his statement with me that I think very important lah. That's what I think should be focused on. So another skill is that you have to use a very good graphical representation, symbols, keywords in your proposal, which I will show later. Writing skill for grant application and report, yes, is writing skill is very important. Testing skills, again, how do you evaluate your performance in producing a good grant? So now I'm going to show you some of the unique factor because our topic is about how to win an international grant. So winnable factor is one of the issues. So number one should be extraordinary. How to make something extra? You need to plan, you need to strategize and put a lot of actions and consistencies to get. Meaning that one of the easiest one to say is to give more than what is required from a grant requirement. To give more. The more you give, the more you get. So don't just fulfill the minimum requirement in applying a grant. You have to give more expectations in putting a good grant. Number two, do not start from zero. Start with what you have at your hand right now. Mulakan dengan apa yang ada di tangan. I give you one example. When you apply a grant, don't apply something that was never, your student might not be able to try it. For example, you can start with a small one. Start with FYP project. You converted an FYP project becomes a grant proposal if you don't have a master and PhD student. So upgrade the proposal of the FYP becoming a grant application, and at least 50% of the project content in the proposal already being carried out. For example, I myself normally didn't apply something at 0 point. It already being started at least by 50%, then we want by 50% work being done, then we apply another grant to support the continuity of that project. For example, you already developed the prototype, okay? You already developed a prototype, but actually you are applying something as if it is not ready yet, but you are actually trying to improve its system. For example, you want to do a mobile apps. So the next grant, 50% from the prototype that's being ready is to apply the grant related to the system. Then before the grant on the system finish, you already apply a grant to do pilot testing, to do a POC, proof of concept, in the real field world, for example, in the community, in the industry. So make sure every time before you end a project, you already have a backup of your grant to support the extension of the project. And number three is that numbers don't lie. What is that? What that has got to do with us as a lecturer? It is about the market survey. How competitive is your proposal? How good is the future outlook for the proposal? So you have to find the need analysis, and you have to do that before you introduce your proposal, and also some impact analysis. I give you one example, one scenario. When I started my research last time, my original work is on something else. But I have to change because when I do the market survey, it is not easy actually for a lecturer and for me as an engineer to do a market survey because we are not a business person. We are not a salesperson. We don't study about marketing. But no matter what, the truth is that we need to know this knowledge of marketing because we need to see the market and the industrial needs to have the projection of what happening in the next 10 to 20 years. So ability to project future direction and sustainability of the impactful research is very important. And then it comes to another step. like I said, ability to try, adjust, and adapt, which means that you have to become agile. What does it got to do? I give you a scenario. For myself, for example, is the easiest scenario lah. I started with my background is on antenna, but how come after a few years I deviate quite a lot actually from antenna become RFID, RFID become IoT. So I am just an antenna person. How come I can move very far from my original research area, from my PhD? Because when we do the market analysis, we do the projection, the future outlook, we have to try to adjust and adapt. And in fact, we are trying to move very fast in the research world, so we have to adjust very quick. So that's why I have to deviate a little, quite a lot lah, from my original PhD area. From antenna become ID technology, become IoT, because we have to be agile. That's an example. So I saw many new lecturer, young lecturer, when they come back from PhD, they don't want to be adaptable. They want to stick to their original area when they did their PhD. I think this is not the right way lah. I think we are very, if we can get a PhD, of course we are very smart already to change. So the switching or the changing, the transformation or the migration of our background and capability to fulfill the future needs must be there. Okay, now we look at some example of the list of the international ICT grant.
Prof
Yeah,
Widat,
yeah,
it seems that we have several questions. Maybe I will pick one first for the
okay.
second Q&A session. We got a question from Miss Samia Aziz. She asked, what is procedure needs to follow in order to apply for the grant if we are independent researcher or industry and would like to collaborate with institution?
Okay. One of the first thing that you need to do is that to limit your scope. Your umbrella is not too big, meaning that you have defined your specification of doing research. For example, you want to do Internet of Things or Industry Revolution 4.0, IR 4.0. So you define that, and then you can start searching the researcher that involve and have a very good track records. Whether it is from industry, from the university, you can keep on contacting them. You start contacting them and do a lot of collaboration. And I believe most of the university academicians are very well open. We can work very well with other institutions, and we should not close ourselves lah. We didn't close ourselves. We are more than welcome independent independent researcher from outside. For example, we can have a researcher from hospital. We can have a researcher from the education, a teacher, for example. For example, in the case of COVID-19, we have a few school teachers that want our help to do the online teaching, for example. So we can collaborate together with the several institutions. Yeah.
Mm. We hope that Miss Samia Aziz got the answer, right? It seems like we have a few questions, but I'm afraid we run out of time. Maybe we choose one. By the way, for those who just joining us, we are in Winnable ICT International Grant Application Workshop. Okay. Maybe Prof can continue presentation.
Yeah, I have looked at all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Along the way, I think for our next slide, it will answer all your questions.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we continue.
Okay. There are a lot of ICT grant available. I'm just listing down a few one that, especially the one that is related to me lah, that I've already obtained before. So actually, okay, before I'm not going through all of that. You can have a look later or on the list of the grant. But how can we started this to have a good ICT? How do we know actually? How do we know this ICT grant? My experience is that number one, at the early stage, I myself search and Google what are the available ICT grant across the global. I do myself the study of what kind of grant that is available internationally. Number two is that from our RMC, they have to have a strong linkages with the global society in order for them to provide us the information to apply ICT grant, for example. Number three is that you have a good network, a good circle of networking internationally that introduce you to this grant. And the number four is that I normally ask my student or my research assistant to search, to take a few days out of their normal work to go through and browse what are the available ICT grant. So the one that I produce here in the slide is actually from my assistant work when she do the survey of what are the available ICT grant. It is not my, it means that I didn't spend so much time. I strategize so that my team has contribute to this and they find the resources to do that. It doesn't mean that we have to do all the things. So this is what I can summarize lah. One example, this is quite tough, but we do have success story lah. Erasmus Mundus. At that time, I think about 10 years ago, my student, which is a final year project student, she got a first class degree. She contacted me to do a master or continue. She didn't want to do PhD in Malaysia. She want to go outside world, work with the European society. So I suggest her to apply this Erasmus Mundus. And I was very surprised that she followed my advice. And then later she sent email to me that she already in Brussels. She managed to secure the Erasmus Mundus. And now she's working, she managed to finish a master and PhD supported by this grant. And she works over there right now. And it's not something impossible lah. It is something that is workable. Even though there are some challenges, but you can master that. Okay, the next one is the ASEAN RVO and ICT Japan. This is one of the active grant that we have right now. I will show also example based on this Japanese grant, because this is the nearest to us right now. We still have projects going on with Japan and ICT Japan. So the point is that you really need to know the deadline and also the requirement needed from the grant, the grantor. Okay. This one is from UK Royal Academy of Engineering. This is also related to ICT. Horizon 2020, this one also very good actually, but you need to spend a little bit of time to digest the grant and work with a very huge network. There are some, if you want to go one by one, I think we may have limited time. Another one good for the junior lecturer is to try this one. Is EU Consolidated Grant, which is meant for, I think, postdoc lah. It's about 10, you cannot, you have to, within the first 10 to 15 years of your PhD. If you get, I think 7 to 12 years of experience after completing the PhD. So my case last time I cannot apply because already 15 years of finishing my PhD, so I can apply this grant. But it is very easy to get actually for the people between 7 to 12 years of experience. So I think below 40 years lah. For people below 40 years, this one should be good to try. Another one is Global Challenge Research Fund. I've been accessing this one last time. Esrc European grant also, Toyota Foundation. We do have Malaysians successfully getting this one. ICIF, you have to be a member. That's why I was a member. I am a member of ICIF. Then we always get notification of this grant. It is about USD 60,000, but you have to be a member. It's a free membership. Motorola Foundation grant, this is also open throughout the year. Once a year it's open. I did apply twice, I think, but I managed to get, not from Motorola, I managed to get from Agilent, Keysight grant, international from US grant. Another one is Fast Track to Innovation. This is also EU grant. And the bottom one, the TWAS Comstack Joint Research Grant. That one we managed to secure one last time. This is actually good for young lecturers, and the condition is also, it must be less than 40 years, I think. Yeah, I think 40 years old. So you cannot be more than 40 years old to apply this grant. So this one have a different structure such that it only support the equipment purchase. It doesn't support other budgets. So now I'm going to go straight away, because we are having a limited time, going straight away to an example for you to really understand how to apply grant. I use an example that we have existing grant right now. We have active grant with NICT Japan, which is on it is called ASEAN IBO grant, which is supported by National Institute of ICT from Japan. It is NICT Japan is like a MIMOS lah. In Malaysia we call it MIMOS. So NICT is like a MIMOS of Japan. They support the projects to boost the ASEAN region only. So the concentration of the budget must be done in the ASEAN region. And the expenses cannot be for salary to students. It should be focusing on activities for the research, buying equipments, traveling, conferences and all that. But it doesn't support the salary to the students. So you can back up it with other grants lah. For example, in USM, if we manage to get international grant, the university can support the salary of the researcher if some part of the mechanism to work together. So for this grant, for example, the requirement is that the leader must be an NICT member. Okay, but the co-researcher may not necessarily be the NICT member. How to be an NICT member? We have the steering member, which is by UTM. UTM is the steering member of the NICT. So USM entered as it is a free membership, no need to pay anything. But we need to get endorsement from the steering member, which is from Malaysia under UTM. So the UTM steering member will endorse you as a member. So this one will normally open end of this year. The closing date normally in April every year. So based on the requirement, I make a few strategy. That's why I said you have to come up with a plan and strategy. The first strategy, which is not the strategies that I listed down is not mentioned in the grant requirement. It was never mentioned in the grant, but I created the strategies to become a winnable. Hopefully it will be a winnable proposal. Okay, in the requirement is that it doesn't say anything about that you have to have how many members in your team. But like I said, give more. The more you give, the more you get. So it doesn't say that. So at least you add a few more members from the NICT member as your team member. And it also doesn't specify what's the minimum number of ASEAN countries members should be there. So my suggestion is that at least 2 members must be coming from ASEAN, regardless whether they are Malaysian member or in Indonesia, Thailand, Brunei. So at least 2. It doesn't request anything about that in the proposal. But for me, it gives a good, if can get more, it gives a good team to show to the grantor. And added advantage if you have at least a member from Japan or from NICT. Okay, this grant doesn't stated that the member can be anyone from Japan. But bear in mind, this grant is from Japan. So it's from Japan, even though it doesn't state that you have to have a member from Japan. We try to collaborate with somebody from Japan because the grantor is originally from Japan. So it will be a very good point if you can have anyone from Japan to be also a member in the ASEAN. But the person from Japan cannot use the expenses that is stated in the grant requirement from NICT, meaning that if you have some of your team member from Japan, they cannot use the budget. They have to use their own budget to come to ASEAN to do, for example, data collection. So NICT doesn't allow the people from Japan to use their expenditure. It is meant for the ASEAN member only. And the next one is that you need to understand the project theme. Be answerable to the theme in your proposal. For example, this NICT ASEAN IVO grant, they change the theme every year. Every year they will introduce different theme. So you need to be prepared. But since it is ICT, so you can be prepared very easily. My suggestion is that try to make a universal proposal. Okay, try to create a system or prototype that is universal. You can apply in any application. That's why one of the main important to do IoT is the universality. IoT ni dia ada dia universal. It's quite universal. You can apply many things. You can have similar proposal but solving many problems. So try to make a proposal that is universal, meaning you can keep on using the same platform of proposal but keep changing the element only, but it is applicable to other areas so that you are fastening your time to do a proposal. So try to make a universal proposal that can fit into many areas. Okay. Now it goes back to this question. The majority of the international grant, they are mostly skewed to applied research, not fundamental research. So most of the ICT, I would say ICT grant internationally, it must be applied research, not fundamental research. So what's the difference between applied and fundamental? I have listed down here. One of the difference between, what are the differences between the keywords of the differences between the fundamental and applied research? Why is it the international grant focus more on applied research? Because most of the international grant looking for the impact. In order for us to move for impact, we have to do applied research. Senang nak nampak. People, easy to see when you do applied research. Easy to measure your impact. So that's why most of the ICT grant is more towards applied, not fundamental research. Okay, I put down in there how to enunciate. Okay, this is based on experience, not in any books. This is experience based. Is that I normally see that some people producing a quite writing style is not so good, such that it enunciate more towards what we want to do rather than what even though you look at this matter as a simple thing, but for me it is a big impact because it does happen to me last time. Okay, I give you one example. If you are writing a CV or you want to tell people about what you did, you want to say something like this, for example, I have published 200 papers and journals in top journals, for example. Do you want to say something like that? Or you can say like this. There are 200 papers has been published in the ICT area. Which one sound nicer? I have published 200 journals, or the applicant has published 200 journals. Which one sound better? So that's why I said just now, ilmu, ELMU. You have to have a balance of emotion and also balance of IQ in order for you to see this small thing, but it does bring an impact. Why I highlighted this issue is that my previous case was that just because not properly enunciate, uh, I got one rejection. But when I try to change the style of writing, the style you enunciate things, then it suddenly get accepted from the same grantor. Okay. So this is an example. Which one is applied? Which one is fundamental? Actually, these two category of fundamental and applied research, everything coming from one same project, and both of the fundamental and applied, they are the same thing actually. But how will you manage to secure both? You manage to secure the fundamental research of that, and you manage also to secure the applied research of that. So you get both. So this is also a part of smart skills. Again, please do not make your proposal a bit of dull. Use a lot of illustration, graphic aids, coloring. Okay, this is one example. I can just make the milestone table here all in clear color. But why do I put a color here? The red, blue, yellow and green color here. This is actually to eye capturing. You imagine the reviewer of the grant are looking at thousands of grant. So what are the eye element for them to capture their so that they don't feel boring lah, I would say. Even when you stated your title also must be catchy. It must be bombastic words. So this is one example. And then this one, you see red color lagi. This one, coloring is playing a very important role. Minimum stages that you can have in a proposal is these three important stages. You must have initial stages, technology development and implementation, and finally the support. Selalunya normally people forget the phase 3. The phase 3 for when presenting the proposal. You see this coloring? So the roadmap must be there. How do you want to make sure? That's why the projection of the research must be in place. You can project how far what you plan, what you propose, having a final roadmap that can be achieved. See, this is one example of a Gantt chart. Okay, now why work in research team? This is very important. So I can see that many people are asking about research team before. One of it is that to fasten the work. But we are not just becoming a follower. We on ourselves become also a leader. Recognition and respect must be earned inside the team. You cannot expect people to give work to you. You have to contribute. And then the experienced member will get more knowledge. Sometimes ni professor ni dia susah sikit nak share. Sometimes someone higher level dia, but I think it should not be that. It should be more shared. Bukan yang tu. Setengah some professor even my previous experience, dia nak tumpang saja. Tumpang Yang teruk buat kerja, the one that is doing a lot of work is the junior lecturer. But the professor tu dia nak guna nama je, use the name for the sake of getting the grant lah. So I think this scenario has to change to motivate each other and also to compete towards research success. Okay, now this is one of the uniqueness that we are looking at the international grant that you can apply. Even though there is no template, normally the university, the international grant ni dia tak macam, it's not like a Malaysian grant. Very the template is very clear. This, do this, do this, fill this, fill this. This is local grant, like that. But most of the international, the template is very simple. The template is very simple because they want to see the uniqueness that you can offer. So this is one of the uniqueness that you can offer, is to show the commitment of your team member. So don't just put your co-researcher without stating what are their contribution of works in detail. Because they want to see how most of the international grant is about collaboration. How do you want to collaborate? How do you want to collaborate, for example, in the ASEAN region? But towards the end, you can produce a prosperity among the region. So this is what they want to look at. So you have to have a unique factor such that your team member has their own responsibility. Okay, this is
From
one
with
thing.
that, from with
Yep,
that,
yep.
we are now 1 minute before
Mm,
12 p.m. Is
yeah.
that possible for us to finish? Maybe
Mm,
into 3 minutes, and
okay.
maybe then we pick one question from the comments to us.
Okay, all right, all right.
Okay.
So this is I just be quickly on this one. The issue on the international grant, another issue that we need to look at is the patent. I think the IP is more important in the international grant compared to publications. As far as I know lah, majority of international grant, they just ask you very little publication, but they want to see the outcome and the impact in terms of the sharing, in terms of the research activities, and in terms of the IP generated from that. Meaning that you have to fight earlier before before you produce the outcome of the research. And sometimes this can become a hindrance such that you cannot get the disbursement until you settle the patent or the IP issues. So I would suggest that you have to look into detail of these issues. Based on the experience that I'll just go into what has not been, is that one of the key issue is that to be smart is to train your GRA, your assistant, your student, your teachers to change their research proposal to grant proposal. For example, you just have one student just started the master program, and then they, no matter what, they have to produce a research proposal. Ask your student, your tutors to transform their research proposal into a grant proposal. Provide the templates for them to fill in. So this is actually a practice to our student. By the time they graduate, in fact, I have a few proposal that my student did, and they managed to get the grant that can support their how to sustain to produce to finish their study in PhD, for example. So they managed to apply themselves a grant and secure it so that they can support themselves during the study. And it has to has a uniqueness. For example, you have to have external collaborator, LOI, letter of intent, letter of commitment. Budget, I think should be, everyone should be familiarized, but there are some issues that you can still look upon it. So again, I emphasize international grant, they are looking at the impact, whether it is on humanity, environment, and social. And it must be in line with the global crisis. For example, health issue, food issue, and then deliverable issues also. This is another big issue. You get a grant, but you cannot deliver. It is giving bad reputation to other members, to your institution. So please make sure you can deliver the grant. So don't push some proposal that is too ambitious that you cannot deliver. So is it something worth to get about, let's say lah, for normally as an independent or individual grant for international rate, normally around 10K to 40K US dollar. Is it something worth to do it? So you can answer it now, I think. Yeah, I think for me it is something worth lah. Another last part, I will go a little bit on post-processing. How you answer back to the evaluators is very important. You need to be able to answer back whatever the corrections, clarification, justifications that you need to answer if they want more information from you. All right, this is last one, is that this is the first catching element of the eye of the evaluator, is that you have to introduce. This is the first communication that you have when you submit your international grant, which is the cover letter to the grantor. Some people, they just straight away submit a proposal without a cover letter. Why do you need to do this? It is actually, like I said, first communication to introduce yourself to the grantor. All right, okay, it's towards the end. I wish everybody can take several information here and share and change the idea. I hope I can give you some idea what need to be what we need to do in order to get a winnable grant. Again, I emphasize again, no matter what are the current constraints and limitations that we have in applying grant, mentality is number one. We have to have a good mentality. We cannot stop the wave, the challenges is there, but we can learn to surf and sail. Dan lastly, untuk menjadi orang yang hebat, selalunya kita menghadapi kesukaran yang luar biasa. Kalau sikit-sikit rasa susah, itu biasa. Sebab kalau nak dapat yang terbaik, we have to have extraordinary challenge. If we still cukup-cukup je, itu sudah biasa-biasa saja, suam-suam saja, mana tak setakat mana lah. Alright, I think that's all. I wish all to have a very good journey, to be successful in securing a grant. And please let me know if you success. I will always want to know anybody that attending this workshop managed to secure a grant, hopefully, inshallah. Thank you. I pass back to the Dr. Hashia.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Vedat. We will spend few minutes to go through the comments. And by the way, we want to thank to all the viewers and the comments. We actually appreciate all the comments, but unfortunately we have a limited time. So I will choose only one question from the viewer. Sir Mikael Rizal. This question is, why is our research is more towards impacting the society and not about the commercialization or working with the industry? So what do you think, Prof?
Okay, this is mostly coming from social sciences background of research.
I think so.
Yeah. The first thing is collaboration. You cannot have, that's why multidisciplinary is very important. You can be in social science background, but you lead the others coming from different background. For example, you can have engineers, you can have IT people, you can have data analytics people, you can have medical officer to be a part of your team, but you can still lead. Even though you are from background like social sciences, economics, accounting, and all that, but try to widen your scope of members, circle of friends, circle of colleagues that can bring together. Because I have one example, I have one project which is led by a social science lecturer, young lecturer. He managed to get a PRGS. I have tried three times as a professor, but got rejected. But when I work with him, which is coming from a social background, he managed to secure with one application to get a PRGS. Whereas a professor like me already tried 3 times as an engineer.
That
So
was it.
I get it. But when I switched the style, I work with the social sciences. Fortunately, his grant, he lead the grant in social area, but we become a co-researcher. Finally, it's got accepted. I am very happy. to see that kind of nature of work is there in place.
Prof, someone asked, actually few people asked, is that okay to
Mhm.
have your slide?
Yes, of course. Mm.
Okay. For you MK colleagues, don't worry if you miss anything. We will sending around Professor Widat's slide through email. But for those outside the campus, the MK campus, you may leave your email address so that we can reach to you and send the email. I think that's all for our session. I would like to thank again our speaker, Prof. Widat, for her very motivating, interesting, and stimulating contribution, and the participant as well for your valuable time to join our session. Thank you again for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again next time. That's all. Assalamualaikum. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.